Hey everyone, Sovereign is Supreme here. I hope all is well. I'm so happy that the weather is back, so to speak. It's not as bipolar, hopefully. And I'm just happy to be here. It was a very nice day today. All sunshine and an abundant blue sky. That is exactly what we have to look forward to, even when we're having a snowpocalypse. I would like to say that every day is an opportunity to become your greatest version, and regardless of what's happening in your life, what matters most is how you look at it. I mean, life isn't always easy, isn't a breeze in a park, but life is essentially what you make it. It's less about what's happening to you and more about how happy you are, not despite the fact, but because of the fact. I have the awareness that everything that's happened in the past is the best thing, are the best things that ever happened. Not to me, but for me. No matter how good or how bad something is, if it happens, not only is it for you, but it is for your greatest benefit. There is always an opportunity to transmute the negative into the positive. And I would like to say that you should, I take that back. I would like to encourage you to speak your truth, to use your throat chakra, and to put fear and hatred behind you. There are going to be people who scrutinize every word that comes out of your mouth. There are going to be people who purposely go out their way to make you feel ostracized. And there are going to be people who just quite simply, possibly unintentionally, misconstrue and misunderstand who you are. And I can say from personal experience that, like everyone, of course, I want to be liked, I want to be understood, and I want for people to see the real me. And I feel like a lot of people are like this. This is a fundamental need. But at the end of the day, it's just not reality. It's not this reality, at least, because people, there's no telling how they may perceive you. I mean, unless if you're a psychic and, you know, you can just read minds, how are you going to know what people actually think about you? I mean, it doesn't really matter what they think about you. And sometimes it doesn't matter what you think about you, even though it does to an extent. Sometimes it doesn't matter what you think about you when what you think about you is actually not accurate. Now, it matters about the quality and the health of your thoughts, but at the end of the day, sometimes what you think about you is just a rehash of what other people think about you, and you're just internalizing their oftentimes negative chatter and dialogue as your own inner voice. And that's the sad but true reality. I think that we live in a society that is very cancel culture happy. I'm not going to say friendly because it's hard to find a happy medium there, and it's difficult to be yourself sometimes without wondering how a person's going to react to you, how they're going to respond to your mannerisms, and more importantly, how they're going to look at you. Is it going to be favorable or is it going to be inauspicious by nature? And it's just very difficult to find a person to trust, especially when we live in a society where most people have ulterior motives. And at least from my experience, it's sometimes hard to determine whether or not it's just you who's going crazy or if it's just society. And there's no right or wrong answer here. I just think it's a matter of awareness and understanding where you're coming from, where they're coming from, and the whole of society. You know, it's important to find a balance, a happy medium between individualism and collectivism. But it seems these days that it's very imperative yet very difficult to find a balance between individualism and collectivism. You know, you want to abide by the social niceties. You want to look like you have social grace, and you want to look like you're socially adept. Hey, how are you? But then at the same time, you don't want to lose yourself. And I feel like I have been guilty of this, losing myself just to fit in with the crowd. But really, it's also a matter of finding the balance between standing out and fitting in. And I'll give you a prime example of standing out too much. You know, like people who dress, speak, and act very bizarrely. It just seems like they're calling out for attention. But it's not my place to judge them. It's just, you know, unnecessary and all uncalled for. Um, I'm doing relatively well. You know, I've been holding in here very well, and I'm just enjoying life. I'm just sharing my perspective. So I'm so happy you can join me today. And, you know, I was just also saying that it's it feels like you're struggling between what society wants you to be and who you are. And sometimes those two ideologies can really clash with one another because you feel like you have to be a certain somebody to be someone, if that makes any sense. And then next thing you know, you're apologizing for what you believe, who you are. You're walking on eggshells trying to serve the greater good of the group, but you should just be yourself because at the end of the day, people respect you more when you are you versus who they want you to be. Right. You can't let people mess your peace up. And I think that's a struggle with being yourself because you're trying to be someone else to keep the peace, but are you really keeping the peace if you're sacrificing your own authenticity, your own internal harmony? Because that's not being peaceful. And speaking of peace, I've been playing more zen, calming music as of late because I've always wanted to have music in the background, and so far I've not ran into any copyright issues. So, woohoo for me, and I'm just here to give out good vibes. I have come to the awareness that as simple as it sounds, you get what you give, so to speak, you know? If you want more positivity, if you want more healing, if you want more self-actualization, you have to give that out. And that's what I'm going to do. I meditate, I script, I listen to positive music. And I just realized that I had to improve my life because there was so many things I wanted to improve. And meditation helped me to see who I really was underneath all of those layers. And the thing about healing is you have to feel it first. You can't just ignore your emotions. And once again, I'm guilty as charged in this area because I tried to compartmentalize how I was feeling. I tried to, you know, be logical all the time, be objective, but that does not work. You have to address the issue at hand, and you have to really give yourself props for all the progress you're making. Because otherwise, it would just be too self-loathing to always focus on what you're doing wrong or what you need to improve. Sometimes you just have to go with the flow and say, hey, this is what I'm doing right. I'm going to do more of what I'm doing right. I'm going to make it even more right. That's going to be my life. And I think sometimes we over identify with who society wants us to be, that we don't know who we are. And I'm not projecting my problems onto anyone. I'm not, trying to generalize. I'm just saying, as a general rule of thumb, I would argue that we all have very similar experiences to one another, but no one's going to experience it the exact same because everyone is unique. But I think that our differences are what makes us similar. And that's the reason why we should be unapologetically ourselves, because there's only one you. No one is a carbon copy of one another. And because of that, there's no need to act like another person. And imposter syndrome is fairly common, in my opinion, because you want to seem like another person. You want to blend in with the social niceties, but it just doesn't work. And in my experience, sometimes it's hard to just deal with people who are uneducated, bigoted, and ignorant on a certain subject. And I just believe in fairness. That's a principle of mine. And I think it's only fair for you to be unapologetically you. And that role models how everyone could go about living their lives. And once again, change is not around. It is not the laws that have been amended. It is not what the general consensus is necessarily, or what it seems to be. Change is within. And it starts with one person. It's like you start with the trees, but then you eventually step back and you see the forest. You start with the parts, then you see the whole of the story. You start with the individual, or the individuals in this case, and then you build up to the collective. It is finding the unity through the diversity. If the unity is the collective, the diversity is the individual. And there are some theories that point to the me illusion, like there's no such thing as I or me or you, just us. But even that ideology is dangerous, because we are not all the same. If you come across anyone who says that they don't see race or something to that effect, watch out. White liberalism is dangerous. I recommend you watch Get Out. Also, be wary of people who say, I would vote for Obama twice. No, I would vote for Obama thrice if I could. And I know this seems unrelated, but part of being unapologetically you is not caring what people think when you speak up, because sometimes being ethical and tactful works, but other times you just have to be brutally honest and just say, hey, this is where I stand. You take it or leave it. I'm not saying that I'm right, but I'm saying I am right to believe this because this is what I stand for. And that also goes both ways, because sometimes people can be too dogmatic in their beliefs. Some may say too devout, or, a know-it-all. But as with everything else, I think you just need to do things in moderation. Try not to do things in excess, because that's where the rifts begin. That's where the political tension is at. That is the reason why society is in ruins. it is because of our collective focus. Either you have the left against the right or the right against the left. And it's just a matter of finding balance. It does not matter where you fall on a political spectrum. It's just getting to a point of non-judgmental acceptance. And that's also what meditation is about. It's about being your highest self in physical incarnation. Why? Because you're not just an empty vessel. You're a person. You're a being. You are way more powerful than you probably give yourself credit for. And that's not to be grandiose, it's just to realize your worth. And society has a way of making you feel worthless. But you are worthy. Everyone and everything in existence is worthy. Because it's just a matter of inherent humanity, and it's ethical to view it as such. You shouldn't have to apologize. You shouldn't have to walk on eggshells. You shouldn't have to be another person to fit in with the majority. And while I do agree with group harmony, sometimes the best way to keep group harmony is to be an individual willing to stand out, to stand up, and to stand by what they believe in. A threat to justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. I hope I said that correctly. I'm not for sure why that didn't come out of my mouth correctly. But injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. That is the gist of what I'm saying. And I do feel like I have a calling to be a light worker or a person who spreads light into this world. We have enough darkness, and needless to say, society is profoundly sick, and no measure of adjustment can make it healthy. That's just like turning a blind eye to a worsening medical condition. We already know what the inevitable is. You might as well treat it while you can. You might as well shed light on it, because anything in the dark doesn't grow. And if you want to develop, learn, mature, and embark on a journey of being your greatest version successfully, you have to be 100% transparent. Who are you? Who are you not? Who do you think you have to be? Who do you think you are? Who are you if you didn't know how old you were? How old would you be if you didn't know how old you think you are, biologically speaking? This is existential, yes, but I think that everyone has some sort of midlife crisis. I could be wrong, but sometimes you begin to question everything about yourself when it just seems like nothing makes sense anymore. You wake up and then you want to go back to sleep, but you can't. Because once you're awake, you're fully awake. And you just have to move forward. There's no point of looking back. There's no point of staying in yesteryear. I think that it's important to not ruminate over the past and to not worry about the future. Yes, prepare for the future. Yes, learn from the past. But in my opinion, it's important to ground yourself, to find balance, to embrace stable living conditions, and to be present. And as a futuristic kind of guy, not easy for me. But I know if I can do it, so can you. Be present in the moment. Your subconscious mind, your body, so to speak, is present. What happened 5 years ago is just like it's happening now. What happens 5 years from now is still now. So, really, the past and the future are non existent, but the present is always existent. You are always you. But sometimes it's hard to determine who you really are when you have so many layers that you need to dissect. When you are just, manifesting a small, minuscule fraction of who you are. Life definitely has its ups and downs, but you should never apologize for who you are, because that is what makes you unique, special, talented, and one of a kind. As I'm looking through the chat, I'm thinking there could only be one Sam, one Raina, and correct me if I'm pronouncing this incorrectly, Dion. Only could be one Dion. There can only be one Desiree. Sure, from the outside in, collectively speaking, you may think that people with certain names have certain traits and characteristics. But when you peel back the layers, that's when you see the individual. The individual is almost unanimously behind the collective. It's just a matter of being organic. When you are being who you think you should be, it's artificial. It's an artificial reality that you're subjecting yourself to. But when you are being yourself, the real, true, pure, unadulterated you, the one that is filled to the brim with unlimited potential, that is when you are organic. You know, that is when you're a real deal. And I've got news for you. Regardless if you say something or you don't say something regarding what you believe, there's always going to be haters. There's always going to be criticism. There's always going to be negative energy. But it's important to rise above the challenge and to mold some very admirable characteristics. And the reason why I say this is because the way people treat you has nothing to do with you, but it has everything to do with them. The way people look at you, the way they address you, the way they think of you, is almost always how they feel about themselves, and they're just projecting it upon you because that's convenient. It's always, not always, but it's generally convenient to take your frustrations out on the people closest to you, because that is much easier than looking at the man or woman in the mirror To quote Michael Jackson, make that change. I had to clear my throat because it was feeling a little scratchy. This is for non-COVID reasons. I also think that you being yourself is your greatest advantage. That is your competitive advantage to life. It is just a matter of tapping into that energy of being perfectly aligned with who you are supposed to be. It doesn't matter what your particular philosophy is on life, but just having a sliver of faith or belief that you can do anything you put your mind to is enough to propel you to move across the finish line. And even though we typically think that, the hair, I don't know if I agree with this, but you think the hair is fast, you think the tortoise is slow, and the tortoise knows the value of life being a marathon, whereas the hare thinks that it's just sprinting. The difference between the tortoise and the hare is the difference between not being able to delay instant gratification and being able to go with the better option down the road that benefits you more substantially. And also with meditation, I always say to slow down is to speed up. When you slow your mind down, that is how you go faster. That is how you process information more deeply and at a more accurate and sleek rate. It's just like ideas flow to you, and next thing you know, you're doing better than you were before. Because you're not trying so hard, you're simply just being you. So why apologize when you can be unapologetically you? When you can lead by example? When you can be happier? When you can be an icon of some sort? It has always been my philosophy that to an extent everyone is a god. Or goddess, whatever. Just in human form. It sounds quite liberal Quaker, I know. But I believe in equality. I believe in fairness. I believe in telling the truth at all costs. But I also believe in inherent humanity, being ethical. Those are principles that I have. And I think it's important to be open-minded, to be non-judgmental, and to consider all sides. For the lack of better words, sometimes you have to play devil's advocate. That doesn't have anything literally to do with Satan. It just simply means, seeing life through other people's perspectives, stepping in their shoes, reenacting what it's like to be them, considering all possible and impossible angles, sides, and perspectives. I think that as a society, one way we can be ourselves is by figuring out what we truly believe, not what we've been taught, not how we've been indoctrinated, not the belief systems that are shared by our friends and family, but by getting to the crust of who we are and unpeeling those layers to first eliminate who we aren't and to accentuate or to build upon who we really are. I think it's a fascinating phenomenon that you really aren't the same person you were 5 seconds ago. And when you think about it, you can't control 100% who you're becoming. I'd argue that life shapes you just as much as you shape it. But the question is, do you personify life more, or does life personify you more? Well, you are the subject perceiving upon the object. And that's something fascinating about meditation is the fact that you're a subject focusing on a particular object. And I think the best example of that is your own breaths. Focusing on not necessarily going blank, but just allowing certain thoughts, feelings, and images to enter into your mind, into your heart space without fighting it, but just letting it flow. And I think that life essentially is the flow, then the direction. Sometimes you just have to live and let live. Other times you just have to let the bad times slide and let the good times roll. It's a matter of becoming open to the grayer attributes of life, the shades of gray, and how can I word this? Being unafraid of putting your own spin to what life means. Because meditation in itself is an art. Art is meditation. Playing sports can be meditation. Fishing can be meditation. Hunting can be meditation. Playing video games can actually be very helpful and meditative when done in moderation. But an all-you-can-eat buffet, do you just gorge yourself? Or do you eat a little bit of everything? Because I think it's better to do a little bit of everything versus vice versa. Just doing everything for a little bit. You know, I think it's important to voice your opinions, and in doing so, you can become a voice for the voiceless. Your voice matters. You have a right to express what you're thinking and what you're feeling without wondering if it's politically correct, if you're going to offend someone who's a pessimist, or if you need to walk on eggshells, because you don't need to walk on eggshells. No one should have to be subjected to such torture, but it happens. Next thing you know, you're trying to justify your inherent humanity. And guess what? You don't have to. And I'm not telling you what to do. That is not my place. It is not my place to be judgmental or to give you unsolicited advice. So to the best of my ability, I give solicited advice that I think is going to be helpful. Just be yourself. Don't try to be like everyone else if you can. Don't try to be yourself. Be yourself. Be more like yourself. Because if everyone was just really who they were supposed to be, the world would be a better place. And to reiterate, the individual is within the collective. If we all individually were ourselves, the collective would be more harmonious, authentic, robust, healthy, vibrant, and in control. The reason why the collective is out of control is because it's always trying to control. The more you try to control a situation, the more out of control you actually become. So I would recommend just being 1001% in control of yourself. When you role model what to be, others will naturally follow. They say herd immunity for a reason. As Homo sapiens, as human beings, we have a herd-like mentality. We like to follow the crowd. Well, if the crowd is representing individualism, if the crowd is representing ideals of fairness, equality, and advocacy, if the crowd is being authentic and harmonious, if the crowd is thinking for themselves and not being dumbed down like the bottom of a pyramid, naturally people are going to follow that. And no pressure, as a society, in every way, shape, or form, we need more positive role models. Because while I would say most people have ulterior motives, most people are good people. And even good people do terrible things, and vice versa. But is it really a matter of classifying a person as good or terrible, or just saying they're a person who happened to do some good things, some terrible things? Can we make everything a moral dilemma, provided that just about everyone is a moral hypocrite? And I don't mean that to be judgmental. I'm just saying, who are we to judge one another when we're imperfect? I mean, it's not a matter of being perfect. It's a matter of making imperfect progress. If you were perfect, you would have no reason to be born, and you definitely wouldn't have any birthmarks or biological defects for that matter. It's okay to be imperfect. It's okay to be flawed. It's okay to be messy. That is what makes you human. Being human, having emotions, and knowing what to do is the beauty of life. But I think that it's one's greatest asset to embrace the unknown and to gladly accept being wrong. Everyone wants to be right, but no one wants to be wrong. And of course, I'm generalizing, but that is a quote. Everyone wants to be right, but no one wants to be wrong. What if it was vice versa? Who would be right? What if people saw being wrong as an opportunity to learn if there is a right or wrong? And certainly you'd argue there is. There are moral constraints. There are social taboos. There are ethical dilemmas. Yes, all of this exists. But as a human species, as a humane species, we add these social constructs to justify our inherent humanity. We have a religious instinct, and so do we have a secular instinct. And they overlap. Sometimes, secular seems more religious. Religious seems more secular. And even with spirituality, you can practice something religiously without being religious. You can practice something spiritually and be religious, not necessarily spiritual. And I think it's just willingness. That is a vibrational frequency that I think would really help us. The willingness to be wrong, the willingness to reevaluate who we thought we were, and the willingness to be open to all possible and impossible sides, angles, and perspectives. Oh, sap, right? If you get my drift. So, long story short, be unapologetically you. Don't be afraid of controversy. Try not to be afraid of backlash. Try not to mince your words just to make the group feel good. Yes, I believe in harmony, but there has to be a balance between harmony and authenticity. Historically speaking, I've been more pro harmony. And I'm saying from personal experience, your voice is just as much intact, important, and invaluable as their voice. They say, I say, you have just as much of a say as they do. But it all starts with how you think, how you feel, and ultimately how you are, how you act, and what you're being. That sounds like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT for short, but it's really that simple. TFB or TFA, thought, feeling, action, or being. And to think about the subconscious mind, to think about the you that you project, it's all about the power of repetition. If you want something to change in your life, do more, think more, feel more, and ultimately be more of that thing that you want. Try to become a vibrational match for all that you desire, because as I will always say, you are not trying to get to a point of what you want, but you are coming from that vibrational frequency. You are all that you seek and desire. And I'm wishing that all that you seek and desire seeks and desires you. And for example, for instance, you're not going to a place of abundance. You're coming from a place of abundance. You are joy, love, peace, and enlightenment. You know, the higher vibrational frequencies. Enlightenment has a vibrational frequency of 700 or more. 700 plus to be exact. And in Western civilization, it's hard to be like a monk. It's hard to meditate all the time and to be high vibe. But part of living a high vibe life is allowing yourself to feel the lower vibrations. You can't expect to go from 0 to 100 real quick. You have to go from 0 to 10 to 20 to 30 to 40 to 50 to 60 to 70 to 80 to 90 and finally to the 100. It's a matter of not only feeling raw, vulnerable, and emotionally naked, but being that and realizing that you are much stronger, greater, and better than your current circumstances. Your internal condition, the real you, is self-love, self-compassion, and self-harmony, as well as stronger, greater, and better than your external circumstances. And contrary to popular belief, your external circumstances do not, in any way, shape, or form, dictate your internal condition. It is vice versa. Your internal condition creates your external circumstances. And I can give a personal testimony that I used to be very negative. I used to be very bitter critical. I used to be pessimistic. I used to not have any faith in myself. And this year, as a senior, I have stepped up in the courses I've taken. I've stepped up in the workload, and I have taken on more extracurricular activities that I never thought I was capable of doing. I never thought I was capable of AP. I was always an honor student, but I finally see my full unlimited potential. Countless adults have told me that I was very intelligent, but I was never particularly convinced that I was smart. I always just focused on the lack. And now I focus on all the things I do well. I put that first and foremost. And then I look at what I could do better. I focus on the progress. And I noticed that this year, no matter what I'm doing, nothing is too hard for me to do. And that could be meditation. That could be positive thinking. That could be scripting. But meditation helped me to have the self-awareness of things that I would just like to change in my life and within my soul. And I used to really have an issue with how people perceived me. And it's not Rome wasn't built in a day. I am much better with this. And I would like to encourage anyone who has experienced this that it's okay. No matter where you are, there's always room for growth, development, and maturity. Everything is a learning experience, and most importantly, it's the experience itself. And one thing I realized is that you're not the valley times, you're not a molehill, you're not even just a mountain. You're the mountain top, but what matters most is the climb. That sounds very Hannah Montana, I know, and very much 2000s. But it is the climb that matters the most. Making the progress, making the change, and taking the step every day in every way to your greatest version. It's not about being at the top of the mountain. It's about climbing. It's about that self-expression. It's about being the real, unapologetic you. So yes, life is a mountain. But life is way more about the climb than it is the mountain top. Because arguably, your mountaintop is not my mountaintop. And there will always be a mountain to climb. There will always be a new level and a new devil, so to speak. I don't think there's a limit to reality. Some may even argue that reality is an illusion. It's flexible. It's malleable. You can bend it. You can, and once you know the secret formula, so to speak, may the odds ever be in your favor, so to speak. But above all, be unapologetically you, because you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. In the moment I changed my thoughts, I felt more positive. I became more positive. And now, generally, I'm a very optimistic, positive, and resilient person. It's very crucial to be happy, and if possible, very happy. But I agree, sometimes, you have to find a balance between being too high and too low. But that itself is progress. That in itself is making progress and becoming more positive and just focusing on all that you are doing well. Give yourself a pat on the back. Love yourself. Take care of your health, mentally, physically, and otherwise. And never apologize for who you are. Embrace it. Showcase it. Be open. Also, consider the source, consider the environment, consider the vibe. It's important to use common sense, which isn't so common. It's important to listen to conventional wisdom, which isn't so conventional. Common sense is uncommon, conventional wisdom is unconventional, actually. Those are virtuous traits that are hard to come by. And when you're yourself, when you are fully, perfectly aligned with your soul's mission, so to speak, or who you're meant to be in this lifetime, that is when the love, the wealth, the abundance, the health, the money, the fame, the fortune, the accolades, the good karma flows into your life. Literally everything begins to flow into your life when you are unapologetically you. You can expect more favor, you can expect joy, you can expect more enlightenment. I would also like to say that, contrary to popular belief, the source of wealth and abundance is non-material. It starts from a non-material source. The resources are definitely material, but the source of wealth and abundance is non-material. It begins within. Anything that you have is an expression of who you are. And to speak the language of the universe, you have to be a vibrational match for all that you desire. And you are. But it's a matter of getting back to where you come from and embracing your roots. And you do that by being unapologetically you, by loving yourself unconditionally, and by leading by example. That is very inspirational. It's empowering, and it is totally you. And don't just take my word for it. Try not to just experience it, but be it. And the key to being unapologetically you is non-judgmental acceptance. In a non-judgmental fashion, accept every part of you. Embrace it. Refine it. Enhance it. Be more of it. Be more of who you really are. Sometimes you have to unknow to know. You have to unlearn to learn. You have to undo to redo. You have to unpeel the layers to redo the onion that you are, because you are a multi-dimensional, multifaceted person, being, entity. Whatever you believe in, whatever creed you possess, that is okay. But long story short, there is more than what meets the eye. There is more than what meets the iceberg. Who you think you are, who you believe society wants you to be, the person you're projecting out into the universe, 9 times out of 10, it's just the tip of the iceberg. It's just a conscious version of you. But real talk, you have to dig into the subconscious and the unconscious. Again, the power of repetition. The more you are unapologetically you, the more you're going to be unapologetically you. So feel free to meditate. mymiraclemeditations.com. Feel free to script. I am so happy and grateful now that it's a matter of speaking in the present or the past, being positive, being short and sweet, and not worrying when it's going to come, but just knowing it is. That it's already there, even if you don't see it. It's already manifested. It's just a matter of you being all that you think you lack. Being yourself is more than enough reason for all of your deepest wishes to be granted, sealed, and delivered. Even listening to positive music. You know, I'm pretty sure, let me know, pretty sure we all have dealt with negative people, bad vibes, and just a general feeling of being stuck. It's up to you to transmute or to change the energy dynamic. Not necessarily by competing with that person and being their polar opposite, but by competing within, collaborating with all sides, angles, and perspectives within. It's less about competing around and more about competing within. And even that is a group effort. You yourself could be a group. There could be a collective within the individual, so to speak. The collective, the whole, divine, and complete you is within. So, maybe that's the red herring here. We think the individual is within the collective. That's what the tip of the iceberg is saying. But what it really means is that the collective is in the individual, is within each individual. And that is what our inherent humanity represents. That is what it means. That is what it symbolizes. The collective is not about conforming. The collective is about embracing our humanity, embracing our diversity, and being in unison despite because of what makes us unique. It's finding the balance. It's forging the path and trailblazing what was always meant to be. Being unapologetically you, leading by example, and showing what it means to not apologize for who you are, what you stand for, and what you aim to get accomplished in your lifetime. And if that means being a voice for the voiceless, be that. If that means expressing a different opinion on a certain topic or issue, be my guest. If that means trying out a new hobby for self-development, for health, and finding like-minded individuals, you found the right guy. So, to wrap up, to come full circle, I would like to say thank you all for coming onto my chat. I'm very grateful for all of you, and I appreciate the fact that you all have taken the time to listen to my tidbits on what it means to be unapologetically you. And again, you have nothing to apologize for. It's just like saying, I'm sorry I was born. I am happy that I was born, and I am unapologetic for what makes me unique from the crowd. That is the narrative that I would recommend you frame for yourself. Something to that effect. Again, you are an individual. Put your own unique spin on it, is my solicited advice. There's also a need to find a balance between standing out and fitting in. I mean, sometimes when people stand out, they're just crying out for attention. But other times, when people blend in or fit in, they just become doormats with no backbone. Try being a person with a backbone who, I'm not saying you don't have a backbone, because you obviously do. I would argue that everyone on this chat is strong, bold, resilient, and innovative in their own right. What I'm saying is be the balance between standing out and fitting in. Voicing your opinion and not voicing your opinion, or voicing it too much. Try to do everything in moderation versus, I don't know what I was about to say, actually. Just try to do everything in moderation versus maybe doing a little thing excessively or doing everything excessively. And also, I think that this could be a cognitive dissonance, but in my experience, I have been more aware of my limitations, aware of what I don't know, how much I don't know. And I can confidently say that you learn more when you unknow. You know more when you unlearn. For all I know, we could be wrong about everything. Being right is not important. Being wrong is an important step to being right. Therefore, even if you have limitations, I think it's great to be aware of that. There's also such thing as Dunning-Kruger effect, when you have certain people who overestimate their abilities, and they're not as aware, they're not as intellectually cognizant of the limitations, and they just think that they're better than everyone. They think they're superior. They may think that they know everything. They overestimate their competence and intelligence. Then you have other people who are more insecure and probing of their intelligence and competence to an extent that they underestimate themselves and sell themselves short. Being unapologetically you is finding the balance between overestimating and underestimating yourself in every attribute of your being. It is estimating who you are and finding out the actual value of who you are. I'd argue that everyone is invaluable, worthy, substantial, deserving, equal, equality, unity, balance. Being unapologetically you is not being ashamed of who you are or what you stand for or your background or what you've experienced or anything else of that nature. It is being enlightened on the value of your experiences. We like to say, you know, that's the worst thing that ever happened to me, or that's the worst person that ever happened to me. But in reality, such a thing exists actually. In reality, it's the best thing that ever happened for you. That was the best person that ever happened for you. Being unapologetically you is being a victor. Not being a victim, but being a victor. Owning your light and putting yourself first, while also encouraging, inspiring, and provoking the same in others, if not greater. Being a hero is not about saving people. It's about saving yourself and having that on full display. Or not. A true hero is someone who rescues themselves. At the end of the day, you simply being yourself is all you need. And the more you are yourself, the more that's going to rub off on other people. It takes one individual at a time. I'm not going to say you should try it. I'm going to say just be it. You know they have a saying, just do it. I'm saying just be it. Reign your kingdom. Be unapologetically you. Accentuate on all that is positively serving you, all that is in your best interest, and all that is truly, fully you. So I hope this video resonated with you. Feel free to give me a thumbs up. Feel free to share my video. Feel free to subscribe to Sovereign and Supreme. Check out my miraclemeditations.com. I will post a link to the website below. Also, you can join the email list, and it tells you all things about meditation. And just remember, you can also donate to Sovereign and Supreme if you like. I have a Cash App and a PayPal. I also have, Facebook, obviously, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I need to use TikTok more, but I have a TikTok page, so you can hit me up there too. But I want to say, always remember that when you are unapologetically yourself, you have nothing to gain. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that. That's the opposite of what I'm trying to say. You have everything to gain and nothing to lose. So let me rephrase that. The unapologetic you has nothing to lose and everything to gain. And above all, that is one of the most ultimate forms of self-love, self-care, and preservation. And while it's important not to lose yourself in the crowd, not all wanderers are lost. Sometimes just being a wanderer, being a freethinker, being a trailblazer, being a maverick, for the lack of better words, is the road to being unapologetically you and to making a difference in the world. Letting your light shine and having an infectious, dynamic energy that transmutes all that is negative into all that is positive. It begins with you, and it ends with you. That is what it's like to be a subject. Sure, an object can have no beginning and no end, but the subject, on the other hand, has a beginning and an end. Because the subject is more or less bound to time and space. But inside of the subject is the object of being eternal, limitless, whole, complete, and divine. And that is what you are. Neither bound by time nor space, but stronger, greater, and better than both combined. Be unapologetically you, because you've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. Because that is exactly what you're going to attract back into your life. The more you give off being unapologetically you, the more you're going to get that back. And I know that sounds like karma, but it's actually true. Your thoughts, your words, your actions, your emotions, they hold significant weight. And I would love to encourage you to be unapologetically you, because that is freedom. Being who society wants you to be. Being who you think you ought to be. Being who you think you are is not being. It is imposter. It's being it's like an imposter. It's like you're trying to convince people. You're trying to convince yourself. You're trying to convince society that you are who you aren't. And it's a veil. It's an illusion. And it's time to wake up, smell the roses, and say, hey, I'm being unapologetically me, because that is what positively serves me. That is my destiny. And honestly, being is unapologetic by nature. It just simply is. No matter what you say about it, no matter what you think about it, it's the object of existence. And sure, the subject can experience it. Perhaps it could be the subject and the object of existence. It's just, you're not trying. You're just being. It's the flow. And that is the key to being yourself. letting it flow, not trying to find yourself, but letting what you're trying to find you. Let it flow to you. Let it happen. Let it be. And so it is. Being unapologetically yourself is the key to freedom and completion. So I love you all. Take care. And always, always, always be unapologetically you. Nothing to lose, everything to gain, and the whole world is at your choosing. Reign your kingdom and get ready for the love and light to abound. Sorry, not sorry. I am unapologetically me. And so are you. We are unapologetically ourselves. And just as much as the individual is within the collective is within the individual, and vice versa. Forevermore, be unapologetically you. Bye for now.